Greetings, spacefarers of the galaxy and acolytes of the Force. Welcome back again to our archives. The Death Star was historically one of the most disrupting inventions in all of the galaxy. The ability to destroy a planet may be insignificant next to the power of the Force, but that doesn't mean that it's something to be sneezed and scoffed at. This kind of power could cause utter devastation on a scale that is something that does not come around very often, and it certainly leaves an impression. Even the Force itself was wounded by the sheer amount of life lost whenever the Death Star blasted Alderaan to pieces. In the history though, there were many superweapons that were created and conceived. The Starforge could use the power of the Force to endlessly create ships and droids for war. The Malevolence contained a massive ion cannon that was capable of disabling entire fleets. And there have even been some planet-busting weapons such as the shock drum, but very few weapons compared to the sheer power and efficiency of one Death Star. A weapon that could obliterate a planet with one shot. However, in our research, we have uncovered several technological horrors that could actually outclass the Death Star by a significant margin. Today, my friends, we are going to be opening up a holocron and bringing you a list of 5 superweapons way more dangerous than the Death Star. This list will be using both canon and legends, and our picks were based purely on weapons that prove superior destructive capabilities than the Death Star did. So with those stipulations aside, let's begin. At number 5, we have the weapon known as the Sun Razor. Created during the Great Galactic War by the Sith Lord by the name of Darth Mechis, the Sun Razor was literally a superweapon that created other superweapons. Much like the Starforge, the Sun Razor drew upon solar energy to power its mechanized shipyard. The weapon was capable of producing several extremely destructive pieces of technology. To put it simply, where the Starforge could generate fleets, the Sun Razor could generate other superweapons. This may be a strange choice for this list since the Sun Razor itself technically didn't work directly to destroy anything. However, we are measuring this on a scale of overall general destructive capability, and upon doing the math, the Sun Razor has the potential to be far more destructive than the Death Star, on the fact that where the Death Star could only destroy one planet at a time, the Sun Razor could generate multiple superweapons, all of which could focus down on a planetary target at once, making the Sun Razor far more efficient and effective in maximizing its target numbers. Among the superweapons created by the Sun Razor, there were 5 that we know of for certain, the names of which are the Gauntlet, the Emperor's Shadow, the Undying, the Ascendant Spear, and the Silencer. All of these superweapons normally would have taken decades to produce, if not longer. However, the capacity of a single Sun Razor, the Sith were able to produce 2 or 3 such superweapons within only a single year. Keep in mind that it took almost 20 years for the first Death Star to be fully conceived and constructed. Admittedly, while the 5 superweapons we just listed were inferior to the Death Star, but collectively, they come out to proving the Sun Razor is far more efficient, especially in the business of mass death. And now at number 4, we go to the weapon that is responsible for the complete destruction of the entire Voltar system. A weapon known as the Cosmic Turbine. Originally created by the Celestials themselves, the Cosmic Turbine was a device capable of manipulating gravity on a mass scale. In fact, it was part of a collection of other huge pieces of technology that the Celestials in the early days of the lore used to put the Voltar system together. This technological creation of life eventually would be poisoned, and it was turned into a weapon in the year 4250 BBY, during the Third Great Schism, when a group of Dark Jedi splintered off from the rest of the Jedi Order and fled to the Voltar system to regroup after being defeated. The group had failed in their previous attempts to destroy the Jedi and had been disgraced in their defeat. But soon, they would discover the large technological marvels left behind by the Celestials. The Dark Jedi then devised a plan to use these marvels, most specifically the Cosmic Turbine, against the Jedi, turning its destructive capabilities on Coruscant. Fortunately though, the Dark Jedi underestimated their controlling and understanding of celestial technology, and quickly lost control of it after its activation. Only after a few days, an accident occurred with it when the machine and the Dark Jedi were trying to regain control. The Cosmic Turbine devastated the entirety of the Voltar system as it exploded, along with all of the other Celestial-made machines, in what became known as the Voltar Cataclysm. In a rare moment, the powers of technology outweighing the powers of a group of dark Jedi. And now, we have to acknowledge one whether we like the sequels or not, and that is of course Starkiller Base. While some say that using an entire planet to create a superweapon is a bit much, there is actually some merit to this. The First Order made their mark on the galaxy by proving that they were more than a terrorist group. They needed to instill a galaxy full of fear, wherein the Death Star had already harnessed that fear. As we've learned from the third season of The Mandalorian and Ahsoka, the New Republic did not take the threat of the First Order and Imperial remnants very seriously, and the destruction of the Hosnian system by the Starkiller Base was the ultimate mic drop, a direct result of the New Republic's ineptitude. Now admittedly, even in Star Wars Legends, upping the difficulty to the fact of destroying more than one planet at once is difficult, but not impossible. And a weapon that frankly puts Starkiller Base to shame is known as the Sun Crusher. Unlike the Sun Razor, this weapon lives up to its name quite literally. This was a superweapon that had the power to forcefully make stars go supernova, effectively giving it the ability to wipe out entire solar systems. What also made the Sun Crusher unique though was its size, as it was nowhere near the size of a planet. Rather, the Sun Crusher was only the size of your average starfighter. Something this small, with that insane amount of destructive power, is mind-boggling. But that's not all. If its small size and horrific capabilities weren't enough, the Sun Crusher was virtually indestructible. In order to survive the supernovas that it caused, the Sun Crusher had a shell that was made of layered quantum crystalline armor, a material so strong that it could effectively repel even turbo blaster fire. Han Solo once rammed the Sun Crusher straight through the bridge of a Star Destroyer without taking any damage. To drive home just how powerful this thing was, it even survived a glancing blow from the prototype Death Star's super laser. The main weapon of this little craft was torpedoes it fired that traveled at near light speed. Firing a single torpedo, it would burrow into the star's core, releasing dense pockets of energy that rendered the star's core unstable, initiating a chain reaction that forced the star to go supernova. The resulting explosion destroyed every planet and all life in its path in a matter of hours. But what of its origins? The Sun Crusher was a secret Imperial project organized by Grand Moff Tarkin that not even Palpatine knew about. A pivotal play for Tarkin perhaps to take on the role as Emperor. The weapon would be lost though after the Battle of Yavin, the secrets of the Sun Crusher dying with Tarkin himself. All these weapons are absolutely terrifying, and after that previous entry, it seems impossible to top. However, we have one more superweapon. What could follow destroying an entire solar system? Perhaps wiping out an entire universe. And now, my friends, we arrive at number 1, known as the Shockin' device, a name which sends resounding chills at even its mere mention. The Shockin' device is a machine capable of destruction on an unimaginable level, a level that it seems impossible, implausible even. However, when you hear about the specifics, then you will understand that the device may actually have held some truth to it. The Shockin' device was created by the Shockinese scientists from a time long past. This scientist believed that the universe needed to be rebooted and given another chance at life. All the chaos and destruction, the endless wars, and all the untold death that had driven him mad has caused him to put his genius into one final kill switch. The weapon was intended to accomplish this by destroying the planet Shockin and hurling its fragments through hyperspace to collide with other planets, setting off a chain reaction that would eventually destroy all matter and essentially end the universe, theoretically allowing the birth of another universe by causing essentially a second Big Bang. We use the term theoretically because obviously this device was never used and no records of its tests and capabilities ever existed. Ergo, it is unknown whether the claims of its true power are accurate, as the Shockin' device was never completed, thankfully. Despite this though, the threat of something like this happening is too great of a risk. The Shockin' device had been rediscovered in 4ABY when it was accidentally dug up and activated on a lonely world. Luke Skywalker and his friends ended up finding it and discovering the history through a video demonstration left behind by the scientists. The countdown had been initiated and the heroes were able to shut it off before the complete activation of the device. Luke would then seal up the machine back underground where it belonged and made sure it was never found again. And thus, the mystery of the shotgun device continued. Perhaps the machine really was all theory and no substance, since it cannot be confirmed whether or not it worked at all. But also, perhaps it is true, and it was the will of the Force for our heroes to find it and shut it off before it wiped out all existence. But now, my friends, do you believe in the power of the shotgun device? And if not, which of these superweapons do you consider to be the most terrifying? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, may the Force be with you.